Now, you would eventually come in contact with a young man who, because of his experience early on, had a life altering event. But before that even happened, there was something that happened that was so mundane to most people's everyday existence that started this ball rolling, so to say. A phone call from your mom.
My mother was a skeptic, and she'd always said that, besides that, she'd always said that if we ever thought she was getting dementia, we should tell her. Well, she was living in Ohio and I was living in Missouri. And she called me one night and said, "Did you hear that explosion?" And I said, "No." And she kept asking me. And I started telling her that we were 600 miles apart. And so I finally told her, "You're cuckoo." And so, but it made an impression on me because this isn't something normal she'd do. And then several days later, she called and said there was this huge UFO flap going on in Ohio. And that people were keeping their kids in, keeping in at night and having sightings, and a UFO chased their best friend in a car and things like that. Well, I was in Missouri and I didn't pay too much attention to it, but later I moved to Ohio. And once I was in the library, the Ohio State University Library, and at that time they had real newspapers, actual newspapers in this huge vault room. It was just guessing that it was the middle of October in '73, and I walked into the newspaper room and thought, I'll never find this in a million years. And so I looked, and I found it out too much looking. And I just found a little tiny article about a strange noise, but it was at the right date. And then I did some more reading and found out that at that time, also there's this huge flap going on. And so it turned out that this was, it happened the same time as the Pascagoula. And I read at that time about this Pascagoula abduction. I didn't pay a bit of attention to that.